all this famine. He's like, no, guys, we are prepared for this because God is on my side. He gets his family there, and Abraham's dying wish is that he wants his bones to be buried in the promised land, right? So he's like, we're all living in Egypt, but when I die, go bury me in the promised land. He's like, okay. So he does that. And then you know what Joseph's wish was as well when I die? Same thing. He's buried in Egypt. Joseph was, but he's like, I want you to end up taking me to the promised land. Take my bones. And this is what's crazy, is that the very last verses in Genesis, it says this. Joseph said to his brothers, I'm about to die, but God will surely take care of you. One more time, okay? I'm about to die. Remember, who's second in command? Joseph, like, our buddy's in office. Well, he's about to die. But what does he tell him? Listen, God will surely take care of you and bring you up from this land to the land which he promised on oath to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob. Then Joseph made the sons of Israel swear, saying, now you repeat it back to me. What do they repeat back? God will surely take care of you and shall carry my bones up from here. So Joseph died at the old age of 110 years old. He was embalmed and placed in a coffin in Egypt. All right. That's Genesis in a nutshell for what we're trying to study. Then what happens? Well, after Joseph dies, years go on, there's a new Pharaoh that comes into town. And who does he not know? I didn't know Joseph. I didn't know the God he served. I'm not familiar with this. And you know what happens? Well, God's promise starts to unfold. How many kids is Abraham going to have? What's going to happen? Have y'all seen a family tree? Have y'all seen a family tree? Okay. So what happens is like 1 goes to 4. That's a crazy amount of kids. And then 4 goes to like maybe 8, 16, 32. I don't know. And then that goes to like, okay. And pretty soon it's just exponential, right? And guess what happens to Pharaoh? He's like, these people, if they get too big, you know what they might do? They might try to take over. So what does he do? Now begins the oppression. And how long is this going to last, guys? I've already told y'all. 400 years. Okay? You know what was going on 400 years ago? America wasn't here. Okay, that's a long time. 400 years. Now it starts. And what's it like? Well, the Egyptians hate the Israelites. And they abuse them. And they make their life miserable. And it's labor and toil. And it's just as hard as it can be. And then he's kind of fearful about, maybe like a king or somebody, right? Like, we gotta thin out the flock. So then what's Pharaoh's command? Let's round up some of these babies and throw them into the Nile. Can you all imagine that? Go door to door, my foot soldiers, round up the babies and throw them in the Nile. Like, I don't know if anybody in here ever been like, man, this country's going down the drain. We're not Egypt yet. Okay, so that's what they're living in. For how long? One more time. For 400 years. And as it's getting worse, well, we're gonna get to that. Okay, so look at this sweet little baby. Y'all know who this is? Moses, which means to draw out of the water. So when all that's going on, Moses' mom puts him in the basket. It's like, man, I just maybe God will take care of him. And what happens? Yeah, God takes care of him. And in the midst of all this pain and suffering, this baby survives. And there's this crazy whole story about guess who finds this baby? Pharaoh's daughter. And guess who's working for Pharaoh's daughter? Moses' sister. And guess what Moses' sister says? I wonder if you'd like to, use a Hebrew, an Israelite mom, to help, breastfeed and feed the baby. And yeah, it's a good idea. And guess who she goes to get? Moses' mama. Like, man, how about that? So Moses' mama gave this child away, but still got to, and came back. And then when the baby gets old enough, she officially hands this child over to Pharaoh, to Pharaoh's daughter, and he learns all the customs and the ways of the Egyptians, right? And then as he gets older, he's about 40 years old, he sees an Egyptian abusing one of his brothers, a Jew. And what does he do? He stands up for him. He kills him. And he's like, man, I am doing the right thing. And the next day, maybe I'm wrong in saying this, but this is my interpretation. He finds 2 Jews fighting each other. Does that tell you how twisted the society has gotten? Like, we've been beaten so long, and we've been talked down to for so long, and we've been the bottom of the totem pole for so long that who do we even hate? Each other. My own brother. Maybe that's wrong. That's how I take it. And Moses sees that and he's like, what in the world are y'all doing, guys? We are not the enemy. The oppressors are the enemy. And what do they say? You going to kill us too, Moses? And what happens? He's terrified. He's afraid. He flees and he runs away. And he spends 40 years out of town. And when he's 80 years old, God meets him in this burning bush. And he's like, Moses, the ground that you're standing on is what? Holy ground. Take your shoes off. Because you are in the presence of the God Almighty. And boy, have I got a plan for you. And what's the plan, folks? What's he going to do? What's Moses' plan? Or God's plan? Let's go. All right. You've tried running away from this. You're ready. Let's go get to work. Okay, so we go back to, wrong way. We go back to Egypt, and God does the 10 plagues, which are also against, it's not just to prove his power, but it's to prove his power over the Egyptian gods. Like y'all, maybe the most famous y'all have heard the god Ra, the sun god. Have y'all ever heard of Ra? Maybe. Okay. Well, guess what's number 9? Darkness. Well, where's your god Ra? Where's the sun god at? He must be losing right now to our God. Okay. So, and also, just for a fun fact, what's the first plague? Do y'all see that up there? Like the last thing that y'all did was take our kids and throw them in the river, and I want to make the river run with blood. Like, if you were one of those soldiers that's throwing babies in the Nile, and that's the first thing you see when you wake up, good grief. Like, give me some extra pairs of underwear. Like, I'd be absolutely terrified. Who have we just ticked off? So we go through these 10 plagues, and they go after the gods of Egypt, and it's proving, the whole point is to prove that who is actually in charge. And again, the whole point is to prove even further, what was this promise that God made to Abraham? What was the promise, guys? You're going to have descendants. One of them's going to bless the entire earth. And what? You are going to go to the promised land. Like, well, no, we're not. We're slaves. And it's like, for 400 years you are, but now's the time. We're going. We are leaving. And so what happens? We do the 10 plagues. And what is there? What leads them out of Egypt? A pillar of fire by night and a cloud by day. The same thing that we saw back in the promise to Abraham in Genesis 15. That thing that passed through the sacrifice. It's like, I'm going to make a trail and I'm going to show you the way. And guess what's happening? Do y'all know anything that gets parted in Exodus? Almost like these sacrifices? It's almost like this is a prediction that God made, and he keeps his promises. And so what happens? Guys, let's leave Egypt. Follow me. And not only that, the Egyptians are so glad to see them go that what do they send with the Israelites?
Gold and silver.
Take some food for your journey, because we want to make sure that you have plenty of time to go in that direction. Here's a golden watch. Here's some fine china. You can go sell it, do whatever you want to. Just please don't come back. All right, so God's people leave empty-handed? No, they leave wealthy. They leave wealthy. They get to this point, and even when Pharaoh and his army pursues them, guess what God does in the Red Sea? He kills them. All right. So God keeps his promises. He delivered them. He delivered them with, what do you call that? With spoils and plunder, whatever, with blessings. He destroyed their enemies. You never have to worry about what? You don't ever have to look over your shoulder ever again. Because why? Those guys are dead. They're dead. They are sunk to the bottom of the Red Sea. And then we get to Mount Sinai. All right? Aren't y'all glad that I'm summarizing this? We could have read every one of these verses. Y'all should give me a bone. Okay. So then we get to Now we have the Mount Sinai experience. We're going to do the 10 Commandments. That's where this is going, okay? But we get to this mountain, all right? And you know what's going on with this mountain? Smoke and fire. And every time God speaks, thunder. And I don't know about you guys. I'm not saying it's a volcano, but it would be like being around an active volcano or something. It's like, Moses, get all the Israelites to camp around the mountain. Now, he just saved all them suckers, right? He saved them all. But he tells them, if anybody touches this mountain, what's going to happen? You're going to die. Because why? Because I'm on it. And you can't be in my presence if you have sin. That's how holy I am. All right? Before I arrived here, could you walk on that mountain? Hike it all day long. But now that I'm here, how's it different? Smoke, thunder, fire. What does that say to you? Power. What does it say to you if you can't touch it? Holiness. So what's God's message? You get everybody right up next to me. And I'm here to save you, but I still got some expectations, okay? And everybody come here, and you sit here, and 3 days, like 3 days, you're sitting next to this mountain, just terrified. You're like, what on earth is happening? And you just saw the Red Sea, and you just saw the 10 plagues. And Moses goes up the third day, he takes Aaron with him, and he's going to get the 10 Commandments. Okay? Have I set the stage? Y'all ready? We've got a turkey in the oven at home. I want to wrap this up. Y'all ready? Okay. All right.
What time is it going to be done?
What do you like to do? So we get to here's your summary, guys. If you need this, that's everything. The promise that was made, Joseph dies, Israel starts to get oppressed. Oh yeah, I forgot. They take away their straw. When Moses comes in and Pharaoh just hates it that much, he's like, are you kidding me? You think you're going to take my slaves away from me? I'll show you. Take away the straw. And they still have to meet their quota. So life is getting worse and worse and worse. Then we do the plagues. We do Israel is, they're blessed. As Eric said, they're freed after 400 years of slavery. Deuteronomy calls it that God brings them out of the fire, of the iron furnace. Like, have y'all ever, burned your hand on a stove or something? Like, imagine living in an iron furnace. That's what he is saying it's like. Brought you out of this iron furnace. Exodus 14, God leads Israel, defeats Pharaoh's army through the Red Sea. Acts 7, and Stephen summarizes their history if you want to see it kind of, a little more tight. And then Exodus 19, Israel sets camp at Mount Sinai. Okay? That's got us up to Exodus 20. Here it is, the giving of the 10 Commandments. And, man, I don't know what order to tell you all this in, but let's just read. That's what we're going to do. Let's go to Exodus chapter 20. When in doubt, just start reading Bible verses, that'll work. All right, Exodus chapter 20. And because we haven't actually read any verses yet, do you all have the stamina and the courage that we could just read the whole chapter? Is that okay with you guys? All right, Sam gave me the thumbs up. We're doing it. Sam's fault if you don't like it. Exodus chapter 20. Here we go. Now, I want you all to pay attention to two things. All right? What happens before the 10 Commandments and what happens after the 10 Commandments? Can y'all pay attention to that? Okay, so here's verse 1 and 2. Then God spoke all these words, saying, I'm the Lord your God who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of slavery. Is that a commandment? Is that commandment number 1? No, this is the first thing. All right, pause. You can already look up. So I'm going to talk for a minute. Okay. The first thing is, before you're even going to get the rules, what do you need to know? Like, do y'all remember that plague that happened? And you remember the Passover and killing the firstborn? You remember the locusts and the frogs? You remember all that stuff? That was who? That was me. That's what God's saying. And what does he call it? I brought you out of the house of sunshine and rainbows? What does it say? I'm the one that brought you out of the house of slavery. So before any rules are given, what does God want you to remember? Where you came from. Which was bad. Really bad. Okay? Now, I want you to skip down to verse 18. This is after the Ten Commandments. All the people perceived the thunder and the lightning flashes and the sound of the trumpet and the mountain smoking, and when the people saw it, they trembled and stood at a distance. Then they said to Moses, "Speak to us yourself, we will listen, but let not God speak to us, or we will die." Moses said to the people, this is kind of crazy sounding. "Don't be afraid, for God has come in order to test you, and in order that the fear of him may remain with you so that you may not sin." What? One more time. Don't be afraid. God came here so that you'd be afraid. Okay, well, hang on. Maybe that doesn't mean the same thing twice. Okay? Don't be afraid of what? Don't be afraid of what you see and the power of God. Nobody's got to fear the power of God if he's on whose side? My side. But he is here so that you would have a healthy respect of who he is, right? Compared to what, guys? To what they saw in Egypt. For the last 400 years, all they have known are little weird cat statues, and little weird statues of suns, and little weird statues of frogs and whatever else. And he's like, no, listen. This time it's what? It's different. It's different. So the people stood at a distance while Moses approached the thick cloud where God was. And then this is even more crazy. The other thing he says after giving rules is this. The Lord said to Moses, "Thus you shall say to the sons of Israel, you yourselves have seen that I have spoken to you from heaven. You shall not make other gods beside me, gods of silver, gods of gold. You shall not make for yourselves. Here's what you are going to make. Here's what I want you to create. Make an altar of earth for me, and you shall sacrifice on it your burnt offerings and your peace offerings and your sheep and your oxen, and every place where I cause my name to be remembered, I'll come to you and bless you." So don't make idols anymore. What are you going to start making now? Altars. And here's what's fascinating. You know how they're supposed to construct these altars? Listen to these two weird rules about the altar that they're going to make. Here it is. "If you make an altar of stone for me, you shall not build it of cut stones, for if you wield your tool on it, you will profane it." And here's the other one. "And you shall not go up by steps of my altar, that your nakedness will not be exposed." You know what that says to me? It says to me this. You're gonna build an altar for me. Okay, Dad, what are we going to use to build this thing? Because we have some lumber, and we were going to cut some stuff, put some screws in it. It's like, well, where'd you get that lumber from? This is not a trick question. Do you all think my children can afford lumber from Lowe's? If they find lumber in the backyard, where did that come from? Right? Right? Oh, well, we used our wood. No. You're going to make an altar. What are you going to use? My stuff. And then what are you not going to do? You're not going to cut it, because if you cut it, what might you be tempted to do? Take credit for it. No, you're using my stuff. And then what about steps? No, because you're not going to elevate yourself. You're not going to expose your nakedness. You're not going to use anything but what comes from the earth. And where does that come from? Me. And what are you going to offer on it? Something that you've made? Can you guys make an ox? If I could, I'd make some good money. Where do the oxen come from? God. So it's like God saying this. But when I give you these 10 rules, first thing you need to know is remember where you came from. Second thing you need to know is that everywhere you go, I provide the altar, I provide the offering. You sit back and you look at what I'm going to do to forgive you. Because it's not you, is it? It's me. Now let's go back to our beginning story. House rules. Okay. Before I heard these, I'll put the 10 Commandments up here. When I've heard these before, like, here's how I think this goes sometimes. All right. This house, you can do this. And here's how this goes, okay? Okay, fair enough. I thought, all right, I'll do it. Rule number 2. They're like, okay. And you get to about number 6, and you're like this. You're like, Okay, rule number 7. All right, what's rule number 7? And then you get to rule number, you're like, oh, good night. Are we there yet? Are we done? And then you get to rule number, like, is that it? Are we finally through? Have y'all ever seen, you can just say yes because I'm doing it. I do it. Have you ever viewed God's laws like that? Like, holy cow, what's the next piece of nonsense that's going to come out of this guy's mouth in order for me to live in his house? That's how we talk about rules. And I heard on the radio, on the TV, something this past week. Here's where the lesson is going to shift. And if you've been paying attention, this is why you're blessed to be here today. Or I'm wrong, and it's just cool to me. And you're like, that was not that cool, Will. That was just not that cool. Okay, here's my thing. What if the 10 Commandments are rules, but there's a flip side of that coin? What if the flip side of that coin is they're not just rules, but they're 10 promises? Now let's really think about this for a second. You remember that orphan girl? Remember how did she used to get food on the streets? How'd she have to get it? Steal. And she gets into this new house. And you can view this rule one of two ways. Do not steal anymore if you're going to live in my house. Thou shalt not steal. You know how else you could view that? Sweetheart, do you see your pantry? You don't ever have to steal again. When you guys left Egypt, what did I send with you? Donkeys loaded down with food and gold and silver. How about this? Here's another weird one. It may not be true of all 10, but how about this one? Remember the Sabbath day. Isn't it funny how the Sabbath day, a day of rest, turned into like the most tedious, workful day in the Jews come the first century when Jesus gets on the scene? It's the hardest day of the week. Well, it's supposed to be the easiest day. It's the hardest day of the week because you're trying to not break the Sabbath. But you know what God says about the Sabbath? It's like for 6 days, what did God do in creation? I worked. Worked on what? Worked on this big goal. The big goal of what? What was the last thing that he created? You and me, guys. We were the pinnacle. It was all for us. And on day 7, he didn't like, oh man, I'm wore out. What does it say? He stopped. He ceased. And on day 7, what does he do? He pulls out his lawn chair and he sits down. He crosses his leg with this little glass of sweet tea. And what does he just? It is very good. The thing I've been working for and working on, this is great. And from now on, here's what we're going to do. You're going to work for 6 days, but on the 7th day, if you're my people, what are we going to do? We're going to take a day off, and you're going to look at the things that you've been creating. Just sit back and enjoy God's creation and your creation. Now, why would that, to a Jew in the first century, that sounds like a rule. To the Jew in the first century of Jesus, that's work. But if you were coming out of Egypt, how many days were they working? Every day of the week. And without straw, you still have to meet your quota. So we can view this in one of two ways. You have to keep the Sabbath. Or I wonder if the Israelites heard that and they were like, we get a day off. How about that? And then you go down the list of everything else. And how about this one? How about taking God's name in vain? You know what it means to take God's name in vain? Something that's vain is an empty vessel. It's like a present. It's a box with a bow on it, and you open it up, there's nothing inside. Right? Do y'all understand what vain, empty? You can view it as, don't you ever take my name in vain. Or you know what you could also view it as? If you ever use my name, you know that I keep my promises. That little girl, when she's like, telling like, hey, here's my volleyball, tell us your volleyball schedule. We're coming to every practice and every game. And you're like, what do you think she's going to say? Her whole life, nobody's ever showed up. What's she going to say? No, you're not. That's an empty promise. I know adults. I don't trust them. But what's this new mom and dad going to do? No, you don't understand. You tell me your schedule. I'm calling doctor's office. I'm canceling that appointment. I'm calling so-and-so. We're not playing golf because I am here for you. So you can view that one, once again, as like, you have to do this. Or you know what you could view it as? I will always be there for you. And then you can go down the list, all of them, with idols. Hey, and I don't get to keep my idols anymore. Are there idols today, guys? Oh, yeah. Anybody got one of those? You know what that is? Okay. Anybody have money? Anybody have a credit card? Anybody care about what people think? Anybody go to school? Anybody have a job? Anybody have like anything in this world? You know what an idol is? It is taking something that is of physical nature on this earth and trying to make it something of spiritual nature above the earth. That's it. A phone is from where? From earth, and sometimes we treat it like it's in charge of my life. And so you can view it as one of two ways. Well, God says, thou will make no idols. You can't worship any other gods. Man, are you serious? I can't worship Ra now, and I can't worship my phone, and I can't worship my boyfriend, and I can't worship what people think, and I can't worship, or you know what you could view it as? If you follow me, you don't ever have to serve anything else ever again. How does that sound? It could be a rule, and it could be a blessing. It could be a command, and it could be a promise. So here's my closing thoughts to you, all right? Is to rethink how the Israelites heard these 10 commandments. Like a burden, maybe the 10 commandments were not only chains, maybe they did give them some structure. You got to walk this way, but you know what else it might have done? It might have been some bolt cutters. It might have been like, hey, you guys are going to get a break from now on. Hey, from now on, I'm going to take care of you. From now on, you don't ever have to steal. You know somebody that maybe committed murder that's listening to these 10 that's going to carry him down the mountain? You know that guy? What do you think happened when he got to that one? And what's got to listen? You don't ever have to take justice into your own hands. Because if you need justice served, guess what? I will take care of it. The mansion that you live in has one door and it goes through Dad's bedroom, and I've got the gun. I will protect you and I will defeat your enemies. You don't have to murder anybody. I will take care of that stuff. How about that? Do you think there's anybody living who's like, you know, I had a baby brother 80 years ago, and the Egyptians threw him in the Nile. You think they want to kill somebody? Would y'all want to kill somebody? And what does God say? You can view that as a command or you can view it as a promise. I promise I will take care of you guys. I promise. I think sometimes what I needed to hear more is I think everybody knows they need to stop sinning. I don't think I always knew that I didn't have to sin. And I think the world needs to know this, guys. I think the world needs to know. Most people know they're doing bad stuff, right? Y'all know you're doing bad stuff? You know what's interesting? Moses fled Egypt before he heard the commandment to not murder, before the commandment existed. You know what that means? He knew in his heart he did something bad, and he wanted to run away from his problems. I don't think people always need to know that they're bad people. I think people need to know that God will let them change. And you don't have to be that guy. You don't have to be that girl. And when you follow me, you never have to do that old life ever again. It'd be a good time for an amen. We need to take that to the world. And we may think that this is a really old story, but I think that applies today. Before we give people God's laws, we've got to show them you are enslaved to something and your life stinks. Your life stinks. And some people, when they hear this, you know what they're going to say? Some of the Israelites said, we'd rather just go back to Egypt. Are some people going to react like that? Like, you know what? I'd rather go back. They can do what they want to. All we can do is give it to them. But some people need to know you're living as a slave. Like, it's like the old, and I don't care if you smoke. This is not about smoking. But it's like you think you're holding a cigarette, the cigarette's holding you. You know? You think you're holding whatever it is. Oh, I got control of this. It's got control of you. So is it time to break these chains? Is it time to move on? Is it time to, and what does God say? Before he gives those 10 commandments, every time, remember where you came from and I brought you out of the house of slavery. And after I give you those commandments, remember, you make an altar everywhere you go. Where's that? Where's everywhere? Everywhere. And don't you try to take a single bit of credit for it. It's my altar. It's my offering. Sit back and witness that I forgive you. That's how we bookend God's commandments. And you know what we do every Sunday? It's almost like this is on repeat. You know what we do every Sunday, guys? We remember where we came from and where we come from, guys. Anybody here been a slave before? Slaves. And are we taking an altar and an offering that only God can provide? We doing that on Sunday? We're going to do that in about 7 minutes. What are we going to remember? This ain't about me, it's what God has done for me. And during these 30 minutes or 45 or however long it's been, we're going to hear God's laws, but maybe we need to stop thinking about it as a burden and thinking about it as some bolt cutters. Man, how's this? This is going to be such a better life. People need to know that they don't have to sin anymore. They need to know that. If you're here today and you haven't heard that, you need to let that sink in deep. You don't have to sin anymore. Okay? And if you know somebody in your life or somebody that you're about to meet, and you're like, man, I'm not a good talker. What if they ask me a hard question? What if they're like, you a preacher? What school did you go to? Do you got to know all that stuff, guys? No, what do you need to know? Listen, man, how about this? You got anything in your life you hate? You got anything in your life that's got a control of you? You got anything in your life that you're a slave to if you're being real honest? Tell you what, I'll start. Here's mine. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'll be transparent with you. And God broke me of that stuff. Would you like to be broken of that stuff? His name is Jesus. Bam, done. Y'all never went to preaching school. How about that? Y'all can do it. Y'all can do it. If you have a need, don't wait. Make a change today. Let's together we stand and sing.